Hello, America. I'm Erick Erickson. Here are the four things you need to know this afternoon. The four big stories you need to know before you get home this afternoon. Now, there are stories in some cases the media does cover, and in some cases, the media just abhors covering. Let's start with a story that's got the world on edge. The whereabouts and health of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. For nearly a week, Khamenei had vanished from public view, sparking a wave of speculation and concern among the Iranian people and international observers alike. As the ultimate authority in Iran, his silence during a period of escalating conflict with Israel and the United States was deafening. On Thursday, Khamenei finally broke his silence. In a video message released through state media and his social media platforms, he struck a defiant tone, congratulating the nation on what he called a triumph over Israel and the United States. Khamenei's message was, as always, cloaked in revolutionary rhetoric, but it did little to quell the rumors about his health and security status. He has not been seen or heard publicly since the U.S. targeted 3 of Iran's nuclear sites. Iran retaliated by giving advance notice to and then striking an American base in Qatar, and then a ceasefire was reached between Iran and Israel just this Tuesday. Behind the scenes, reports indicate Khamenei had been taking refuge in a fortified bunker, avoiding electronic communications to thwart potential assassination attempts. He's even gone so far as to name 3 senior clerics as his potential successors, a move that underscores the gravity of the situation. The Ministry of Intelligence has reportedly instructed all high-ranking officials and military leaders to remain underground, and Khamenei is believed to be communicating with his commanders through a single trusted aide. This is a moment of significant vulnerability for the regime in Tehran. The fact that Khamenei feels the need to hide and has prepared for his own demise tells you everything you need to know about the state of Iran's leadership. The regime is under unprecedented pressure, both from external adversaries and internal dissent. For decades, Iran has projected strength through its proxies and revolutionary rhetoric, but the current situation reveals the regime's fragility. The people of Iran deserve better than a leadership that rules by fear and secrecy, and it's clear that the Ayatollah's grip on power is more tenuous than ever. Up next, we need to turn to domestic politics and new data on Donald Trump's election. The new domestic politics, where the new data shows that Donald Trump would have actually won even if every single person had voted. This turns on conventional wisdom. For years, the dominant narrative had been Democrats benefit from higher voter turnout. The latest research from Pew and other sources tells a different story, one that should make conservatives optimistic about the future of the election. The 2024 election saw Donald Trump defeat Kamala Harris by a margin of 1.5 percentage points, winning both the popular vote and the Electoral College for the first time in his political career and the first for Republicans since 2004. Here's the kicker. If everyone eligible had voted, Donald Trump's margin of victory would have been even larger. That's right. The missing voters that Democrats have long claimed would actually save them lean towards Trump. Let's break this down. Trump's coalition in 2024 was more racially and ethnically diverse than ever before. He made significant gains among Hispanic voters, winning 48% of their support, and even managed to secure 15% of the black vote, a 7-point increase from 2020. Among Asian voters, Trump took 40%, a notable jump from previous cycles. And among naturalized citizens, the race was nearly even, with Trump at 47% and Harris at 51%. The real story is in turnout. Trump won a majority of voters who skipped the 2020 election but showed up in 2024. Among those who skipped both the 2020 presidential election and the 2022 midterms, Trump won 55% to Harris's 41%. Even among non-voters, Trump led Harris 44-40 in a hypothetical matchup. All this flies in the face of the old Washington axiom that high turnout benefits Democrats. But what does it actually mean for conservatives? Well, it means the Republican Party is evolving. Trump's brand of conservative populism resonates with a broader, more diverse swath of the American electorate than ever before. The days of Democrats counting on a rising tide of new voters to push them across the finish line and into victory is probably at an end. The GOP is actually becoming a dominant force with the majority voters. But there's a caveat, too. While the GOP is making inroads with young, non-white, and working class voters, groups that were once solidly Democrat, they've actually got to turn out to vote. This is a wake-up call for both parties. For Democrats, it means they can no longer take their traditional base for granted. For Republicans, it's a sign that the party's message is reaching new audiences. The future belongs to the party that can best connect with the real concerns of everyday Americans Right now, that's the GOP. But again, its voters have got to turn out to vote. Next, let's talk about a case that highlights the ongoing chaos in our immigration system, the saga of Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia. It's a story that should concern anyone who cares about due process and the rule of law. Abrego Garcia, an illegal alien who took up residence in Maryland and lived in the U.S. for over a decade, was wrongly deported to El Salvador earlier this year due to what the government now admits was an administrative error by the Trump administration. He could be deported, just not to El Salvador, where he was sent. After spending more than 2 months in a notorious prison in El Salvador, he was returned to the U.S. to face federal charges of transporting undocumented migrants within the country. Now, this is where it gets messy. Last week, a federal magistrate judge ruled Abrego Garcia should not be detained while awaiting trial on charges of trafficking, citing a lack of evidence he poses a danger to the community or is a flight risk. Here's the catch. If he's released from criminal custody, he's likely to be immediately taken into custody by ICE and could face deportation again. That's right. The federal government signaling they intend to deport Abrego Garcia. The Justice Department has argued if Abrego Garcia is deported, it will irreparably harm their ability to prosecute him. But as one federal judge put it, that's a problem completely of the government's own making. The judge went further, noting the government's evidence against Abrego Garcia is largely based on testimony from unnamed co-conspirators, some of whom received benefits in exchange for their cooperation. No, this case is a mess. On one hand, we've got a man who was deported through an administrative error, is now caught in a bureaucratic nightmare. On the other hand, the government is struggling to balance law enforcement priorities with due process. The real issue here is the lack of clarity and consistency in our immigration system. When the government can't keep track of who it's deporting or why or where they're going or where they can't go, it undermines public trust and the rule of law. And that's a problem. Conservatives believe in fair and orderly immigration, one that respects due process and the rights of the accused. This case is a reminder we need to fix the system, not just double down on enforcement without accountability. As for Abrego Garcia, he is an illegal alien. He's not an American citizen. He was ordered deported, just not to El Salvador. The government screwed that up. They can make it right. And honestly, when you look at the evidence of the human trafficking case, it doesn't actually look like it adds up. Maybe just go on and deport him. Let's end with some good news on the home front and the manufacturing front, a rare bit of positive movement for American industry. According to recent reporting, GE Appliances is moving washing machine production from factories in China back to its plant in Kentucky. That's right. After years of watching jobs and production head overseas, we're seeing a major company begin manufacturing back in the heartland. Let's be clear here. This isn't just about corporate goodwill. The move comes as companies face increasing costs and risks in China, including rising labor expenses, ongoing trade tensions, and concerns about supply chain reliability. By shifting production to Kentucky, GE Appliances is betting that American workers, with their skills, work ethic, and support for a more stable political environment, can produce quality products at a competitive price. This is exactly the kind of trend we should be encouraging. For too long, American manufacturing has been hollowed out by offshoring, with jobs disappearing to countries that don't play by the same rules. When companies bring production back home to the U.S., it means more good paying jobs for American workers, stronger local economies, more resilient supply chains. But we shouldn't get carried away here. This move is also a move that brings with it some risks for GE Appliances, including potentially higher costs and less of a competitive edge. We've got to have policies that make it easier for companies to invest in America, lower taxes, less red tape, a level playing field for American businesses. We also need to hold companies accountable when they take taxpayer-funded incentives and ship jobs overseas. The goal needs to be to make America the best place to do business, not just the one for companies, but for everyone. We also need to make sure prices stay low for consumers. But for now, let's celebrate this win for Kentucky workers. Let's also remember the fight for American manufacturing is far from over. If we want to rebuild middle class and secure an economic future, we've got to keep pushing for policies that put American workers first, but also manage prices in a global competitive landscape. Now, here we are at the end. These four things. Iran Supreme Leader Khamenei has broken a silence after days of mystery, but the regime stands on shaky ground still, and we're not really sure where he is. The case of Abrego Garcia shows that immigration is still a mess. Donald Trump, we now know, if everyone had voted, would actually have won the election, flying in the face of Democratic claims that the more people who turn out help them. And GE Appliances has decided to repatriate manufacturing to Kentucky from China. These are the four things you need to know this afternoon. I'm Erick Erickson. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and to our podcast. Please stay informed, stay engaged, and as always, please keep the faith.